Hello and welcome to Esther's Gardening Adventures. I'm Esther, and today I'm going to show you how I transplant my vegetables from my winter sowing jugs, from the containers that I grew them in over the winter, into their garden beds, into their containers or raised beds. And you'll see me using an opened milk jug, which is called a process called winter sowing. If this is your first time hearing about winter sowing, please check out my Winter Sowing 101 series, where I break down everything you need to know about how to get to this stage, and I continue to post content like this after that. So today I'm going to be planting up, transplanting radishes that I already hardened off. And if you check out my video, episode 14 of my Winter Sowing 101 series, I talk about how to harden off your seedlings. It's a short process, but it's an absolutely critical step to take before you actually transplant your plants so that they have a better chance of doing really well in their final home. The first thing you want to do when you're about to transplant is have your materials. So in my case, you want to have, I guess it's a trowel, or in my case, I have this bare bones. Oh, I forgot what this thing is called. Put the chat on later. But I have this nice, it's got a good little dip here that makes it good for scooping. So you want some kind of digging tool of your choice. You want something to kneel on or sit on, like I have here, my knee pads. I'm going to use gloves when I actually put them, if I'm doing any digging in the ground to prepare for them. And if it's a bright day, like it's pretty bright today, I need to create some kind of shade for this. I also have a water pail here. You can have a hose or whatever you prefer. This is just easier than carrying a hose back and forth for me for this small job. And then of course you want your seedlings. As I said in my hardening off video, you want to make sure that you have at least one, if not two, preferably set of true leaves, i.e. the leaves that the plant will look like for the duration of its life. These seed leaves or starter leaves will actually die off pretty soon after the plant starts growing maturity. It kind of just lets these small leaves die. Now, when doing it with winter sowing jugs, first thing I'm doing is putting the name tag of it over here. I have a couple of choices. Normally you can plant 16 per square with radishes. I want to make sure I don't disturb the roots. So I'm probably not going to go with the square foot method in this case. The reason being is, in this case in particular, this is a flower bed later on, once these are done. And so I'm not worried about having to conserve space. I'm probably going to have very little in this bed until I put actually the summer products in. So I don't need to worry about having a particular small space taken up. And I'm more worried about actually affecting the roots, disturbing the roots of these plants. So I'm not going to worry about that part. All right, let's get to how I actually go with getting the product out of the soil. So if you have it packed fairly tightly and the soil should be wet, you can get it wet ahead of time, or like in my case, it rained 2 days ago, so the soil is fairly moist already. The first thing you want to do is basically tip it upside down. You can see this beautiful root system there. Isn't that gorgeous? And right now the sun is sort of behind some clouds, so I'm not too worried about exposing the roots here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out the clusters. Now I can use my knife, or I can take them apart myself. And here is a cluster. You can kind of see clearly this is a cluster by itself. So I'm going to just go like this, and look how easy that comes apart. Comes apart so easy. Now I broke one of my golden rules, which is to have the soil prepared ahead of time. I definitely broke that rule. Bad Esther. But, you know what? This water is not light. I want to make sure it's wet on the bottom when I go to put it in. And I just transplant it like that. There we go. Nice little happy radish. All right, let's be smart and do the second. And I have this just sitting like this. The edges are sort of exposed to the light, but honestly in the jugs they get sunlight on them a little bit anyway, unlike in a black-sided container that you would get when you get seedlings. So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna dig the next hole. And I know I'm not putting on my gloves, but I'm really not touching the soil other than to transplant these beauties out. And I already touched the soil putting the seedlings in the jug, so I'm not too worried about getting cut or anything like that. All right, let's get our next set. Next set up. And I'm just gonna deal with the water being heavy. Pour some water into here, into the hole. And let's figure out where our next grouping is. I'm gonna take my llama down for the moment. Next grouping. This looks like a good set here. Now, normally you would separate individual ones, but again, with radishes, I'm purposefully growing them in sets. Look, guys, look how easy that was. Literally, it just took me putting my thumb where I thought it ended. Isn't that crazy? Look how healthy those roots are. But let's not leave it exposed to light too long. Let's go ahead and put them in here. Okay, girls. I know plants do not have gender, but I like to think of them as ladies. Just because, maybe it's because I'm a girl. I don't know. But, okay. Next hole. Now, I didn't count out. I should have done this. I should have counted out how many we have. Let's see. We did 2. Okay, we have... That looks like it's together. Now, this is funny. They are collectively as a set tangled at the top more than at the bottom. And that does happen sometimes. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more to do, it looks like. And I have this hole mostly prepped. Let's finish the prep work on it. Because I'm doing with a raised bed, the soil is so much easier to work with. You know. And this isn't a very deep plant, so I'm not that worried about having to dig far down. Okay, got some nice water on the bottom. Let's just take our hand. Oh, see, even before I picked it up to try, it was already beautiful root system already under development here. Now, when you transplant anything, it's going to look a little upset and wilted for a good couple of days. Maybe one day, maybe 2 or 3. If it's a whole week later and they haven't recovered, you might have done something wrong. At least from my limited 1-year experience doing this. But they should bounce back soon thereafter. Okay, let's do our 4th hole. Trying to give enough space to not disrupt the root system of the ones I just put in. My husband gave me this knife for Christmas. It turns out he got it from some like man kit where they order different, you know, they get things once a month or whatever. And I had told him, he saw this on my wish list for Christmas. He goes, "Oh, I have that. Do you want it?" And I said, "Yeah, I would love to have it." Oh, it's called, I don't know what it's called. A hori hori, I think? Okay, yeah. Again. All right, so we have our soil here again. I kind of know that the seedlings I want to separate out are right here. And all I'm doing is, I mean, look how easy that is. If you lose a little bit of the roots, it's not the end of the world. They will be okay. Oh, and I forgot the water. Bad Esther. Bad Esther. Okay. Now I am going to water them at the end. So if you forget, it's okay. But I like to make sure they have a good home to start off in. All right. I could do this with my hand, but I find it so fun to do with the knife. Water and separate. Now see, these two did not want to come apart. Okay, girls. You decide who wants to be where. Stop fighting. Just coax them nicely. The leaves are kind of caught up in each other. This happens sometimes with jugs. The leaves will get intertwined. And I have 3 here that want to come out, but I have 2 that haven't quite separated from the rest. And I'm just gonna pick it up off the ground and plant them all together. Because I feel like these guys are family, not the other ones. Fingers crossed. Hey, if I only get one good one out of all this, I won't be upset. You know? It's part of the fun of gardening, is taking a risk. Alright, next hole. Ah! Yes. See, it's so moist it's sticking to the knife. Nice. Hole there. Now, I'm not protecting the roots, but they are, oh, it's coming out of a shade a little bit, but it is a part cloudy right at the moment, or up until a second ago it was. Okay. Okay, little girl, I promise we'll get you some support from the soil here in a second. There we go. And the good news is the composition of the type of soil that I'm putting them in versus, you know, the potting mix I was using. It's fairly similar. So, you know, we're good in that regard. Now this is the bed that I started this year. It's a fresh bed. It looks like we got 3 more to plant. So here we go. This has, oh, this has like 4 or 5 of them. I probably ought to take a couple out, but maybe pick that one out. Ah, I forgot the water. I forgot the water. Water, water, water. Okay. All right, girls, get in there. Oh, there's some clay. That'll be nice for nutrients. Oh yeah. Next. Do be careful if you're using a knife because it is sharp. Now, I am careful with it, but now I should actually be shading these roots because they're pretty exposed. Yeah, it's too late. It won't be long, my friends. It won't be long till you have a home. It won't be long, I promise. And this is the last group. It looks like there is 2 that are kind of caught up in each other. And before I finish breaking them up as a family, I'm gonna put this in the shade of the, the pot. Before I break them up as a family, separate them out like that. There we go. There you go, girls, ladies. Make sure this isn't being overworked here. And one more. This one's pretty much prefab, so let's dig our hole and put them in. Hope all of this was on camera. I think I filmed the camera. I think I placed the camera in the right place, but if not, we'll figure it out in editing. Alright. Oh, did I forget the water? I forgot the water. Gosh, darn it. Putting some water in the pot's right here. It's not like I even have to lift it to get some water in there. Just tip it in. Alright. There we go. And now, our radishes are planted, guys. Look at that. They look so pretty. Now they're gonna flop around until they figure out their footing, and that's fine. I'm not worried about it. In the jug they had to do all kinds of acrobatics to get to the sunlight, and here they'll straighten out. Like we have this one that's like all twisted, and it'll figure out its place. soon enough. Soon enough. Okay, girls, now let's give them a good dose of watering, and then we'll be done. Other than putting the label in place, which I have buried. Actually, it's both double-sided, so I can do this. All right. Everybody a good soaking. All right, there we go. Just for aesthetics, sometimes I like to put up the soil a little bit just to help me feel like they're doing okay. But I don't want to like bury their roots either. You know, you don't want to bury the roots, or you do want to bury the roots. You don't want to bury the stems and have them rot. Just like to use the soil to give a little more support. Just a little more support. There we go. A little more support for this lady. These ladies over here. Okay. There we go. Fingers crossed. Rinse off my hands now. Fingers crossed, but that gives you an idea of how to transplant. Now, obviously, it's a little more tricky when you're doing seedling from seedling, but if you space them far enough apart, they're really quite easy to separate. And honestly, most of the time, even if they're pretty locked up, you can just, like you saw me doing, just wiggle a little bit, give them a little bit of space, coax them, ask them, I guess you could say, to separate, and you'll find a way. If you lose a little bit of the roots, it's okay. Not the end of the world. Alright, now I'm going to clean off my knife, and we'll do our final thing. What did I do with the case? Well, where did I put the knife cover? Where could it be? Am I sitting on it? Did I toss it somewhere? Absent-mindedly. Alright. Let's put our llama back in. Facing the right way. And pack up and yay! If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If this is your first time checking out this channel, or if you've watched multiple of my videos and enjoyed them, please consider subscribing if you aren't already a subscriber. And make sure you have that bell button selected so that you get notifications whenever I post new content. Otherwise, I will see you next time.